Florida man sentenced to life in prison for multiple sex crimes against children. Hernando County, Florida. A 45-year-old Florida man has been sentenced to life in prison after being convicted of multiple sexual offenses involving 2 juvenile victims, officials with the State Attorney's Office for the 5th Judicial Circuit announced. State Attorney Bill Gladson confirmed that Andrew Paul Johnson received a life sentence following his conviction earlier this year on several serious charges related to crimes against children. The case was prosecuted through the Office of the State Attorney for Florida's 5th Judicial Circuit. Johnson was found guilty in February of multiple counts, including lewd or lascivious molestation of a child under the age of 12, lewd or lascivious molestation of a child between the ages of 12 and 16, 2 counts of lewd or lascivious exhibition, and transmission of material harmful to a minor through an electronic device. Because of the severity of the offenses, particularly those involving a child under 12, Florida law allows for a life sentence upon conviction. The investigation began in July 2025 when deputies with the Hernando County Sheriff's Office were dispatched to a residence in Brooksville following a report of a potential sexual offense. When deputies arrived at the scene, they spoke with the complainant, who reported that 2 juvenile victims had disclosed that they were both inappropriately touched by Johnson. During the initial response, the complainant also provided investigators with a cell phone that had been found in the possession of one of the victims. According to authorities, the victim said Johnson had given them the device so the two could communicate privately. Investigators immediately recognized that the phone could contain critical evidence related to the allegations. As deputies began examining the situation more closely, they also discovered digital communications on a computer that appeared to be connected to Johnson. Authorities reported that numerous messages had been exchanged between Johnson and one of the victims through the messaging platform Discord. Investigators said the content of those messages was sexually explicit in nature. Deputies carefully documented the messages and images by photographing the digital communications. According to investigators, the exchanges revealed that Johnson attempted to persuade the victim to download another application so their conversations could continue in a more private setting. Authorities said Johnson also encouraged the victim to delete the messages after communicating with him. Investigators believe this instruction was intended to hide the conversations and prevent them from being discovered by parents or law enforcement officials. As the case developed, detectives partnered with specialists from the You Thrive Child Advocacy Center, whose child protective team assists in cases involving young victims. Together, investigators and child advocacy professionals conducted interviews with both victims in a safe and supportive environment designed to help them share their experiences. During the interview process, the first victim provided detailed accounts of the alleged incidents involving Johnson. The child described several situations in which inappropriate touching occurred and identified multiple locations where the incidents took place. Investigators said the victim also disclosed that some of the acts occurred while the second victim was present. This information became an important part of the investigation, as it allowed detectives to compare statements and verify details between the 2 accounts. The first victim further told investigators that Johnson often attempted to gain their trust by giving them gifts and buying food for them. Authorities believe these actions were intended to build a relationship with the child and discourage them from reporting the abuse. According to investigators, the victim also said Johnson warned them not to tell anyone about what had happened. The child stated that Johnson once told them that he would get into serious trouble if anyone found out about his actions. When authorities interviewed the second victim, they received similar information. The second child also described several instances of inappropriate touching involving Johnson. Investigators said the second victim's statements closely matched key details provided by the first victim. This corroboration strengthened the case against Johnson and helped authorities build a clearer understanding of the events that allegedly occurred. Following the investigation, Johnson was arrested and charged with multiple criminal offenses related to the abuse of the 2 minors. The case later moved forward to trial, where prosecutors presented evidence gathered by law enforcement, including the victim's statements and the digital communications recovered during the investigation. Assistant State Attorneys Casey Whitson and Rob Lewis led the prosecution on behalf of the state. During the trial, they outlined the evidence collected by investigators and presented testimony detailing the allegations against Johnson. After reviewing the evidence and hearing testimony during the proceedings, the jury ultimately returned a guilty verdict on all charges in February. Because one of the convictions involved lewd or lascivious molestation of a child under the age of 12, one of the most serious sexual offenses under Florida law, the court imposed a life sentence. Officials with the state attorney's office said the outcome reflects the seriousness of crimes involving the sexual abuse of children and underscores the justice system's commitment to holding offenders accountable. Authorities also acknowledged the bravery of the victims who came forward and participated in the investigation. Law enforcement officials say cases involving child victims can be particularly difficult, and the willingness of victims to speak openly plays a critical role in bringing offenders to justice. Investigators also emphasized the role that technology played in this case. Officials say online messaging platforms and digital devices are sometimes used by predators to contact minors and attempt to build secretive relationships with them. In this case, authorities said Johnson allegedly used electronic communication to maintain contact with one of the victims and attempted to move conversations to more private platforms while encouraging the deletion of messages. Law enforcement officials encourage parents and guardians to remain aware of how children use phones, computers, and messaging applications. Monitoring online activity and discussing internet safety can help reduce the risk of children being targeted by individuals seeking to exploit them.
Child advocacy organizations also stress the importance of reporting suspected abuse as soon as possible. Early reporting allows investigators to respond quickly, protect victims, and collect evidence that may be crucial to building a case. The successful prosecution of Johnson was the result of cooperation between multiple agencies, including the Hernando County Sheriff's Office, the You Thrive Child Advocacy Center, and the State Attorney's Office for the 5th Judicial Circuit. Officials say the life sentence ensures Johnson will remain behind bars and sends a clear message that crimes against children will be taken seriously and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The sentencing was formally announced on March 5, 2026. Authorities say they remain committed to protecting children and ensuring that individuals who commit crimes against minors are held fully accountable.